these days that we have to be able to see it to believe it. It just seems that we have that ends up being a part of who we are enough that we just have to be proved. That's why there's such a big popularity of the reality shows right now. We have to see how people actually acting in their lives, in their daily lives, in their homes, in their private lives, even when we know a lot of it has got to be staged, that it's almost beyond believable, but yet we see it, so it becomes a part of what we think is normal. This has been going around for a long time. I mean, we can understand it in this scripture. And if you're thinking about Thomas and his doubts in this particular scripture, then you should feel right at home. I mean, wouldn't you? If you were Thomas and some of that happened to you, you would feel the same way? I mean, the story goes that when Jesus first appeared to the disciples, Thomas, one of them, wasn't there in that upper room when Jesus appeared to them. Now, it was kind of a fantastic appearance because all the doors and the windows were locked because the disciples were afraid of the Jews, afraid of ending up in the same fate that Jesus did. And they still hadn't quite comprehended all the things that Jesus said, even after the women came back with this fantastic tale that the tomb was empty. So they're gathered there in that house, Thomas not with them. Maybe he drew the short straw and had to go out and get them something to eat. Or maybe he just got tired of being cooped up with 10 other men in that room and decided it was time for a walk. Well, whatever it is that Thomas decided to do, while he was gone, Jesus stood among them and said, "Peace be with you, and look at me. I'm here. You can see my hands. You can see my side. You can touch me. Give me something to eat. I am back." And so he tells them all the story, and then he starts telling them about what they are going to do. And then just as suddenly as he appeared, he disappears. And when Thomas comes back, his companions tell him, declare that they have seen the Lord. "Thomas, you missed something fantastic. Jesus was here." And he's saying, "Right, yeah. And I got some swampland that I'll sell to you." No, if we want to know, we want to see it. He says, unless I see it with my own eyes, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. "No, you don't understand," they said. "He is risen. He is here. He is present with us." Thomas just couldn't do it without some kind of evidence, some kind of personal contact. He couldn't believe that it could happen. And I think that really could be understandable. I mean, people rising from the dead wasn't something you would expect every day. It isn't something that happens in our daily lives over and over again to the point where we would expect it to happen. So when it does happen, it does take us off guard a little bit. And maybe Thomas was a little bit depressed because of all the things that had happened. I mean, they say that grief does those kinds of things to us. That we doubt that we have seen things or heard things, or as people do things, we begin to wonder if that really is what happened or if you just imagined it. So there is some reason there for Thomas to at least challenge what they're telling him. Now, many of you my age, and maybe a few of you younger if you've got cable, know a secret agent by the name of Maxwell Smart. Everybody know Maxwell Smart? Okay. He happened to be one of my favorite television shows to watch over the years. And one of the things that Maxwell Smart did, he was played by Don Adams. He was a spy at the height of the Cold War.
But they haven't yet invented the torture that could drag those numbers from my lips.
You're right, Mr. Glee.
I remember when I was in Burma during the war. I was captured by the enemy and gave only my name, rank, and serial number in spite of being subjected to the most fiendish torture ever devised by man. The water torture. A drop of water on the forehead every minute for 300 gallons. 300 gallons, Mr. Brown. Would you believe it?
That's pretty hard to believe.
Would you believe a quart? What if they came by once a day with a glass of water and an eyedropper?
That's one of his running schemes, the skits they had during his show was, would you believe? There's some of these others. I mean, it was kind of a fantastic spoof on spying at that point in time, and it was a great little program. I loved the program, and he just, it was one of those things he had, some of the things he had was the old secret panel in the bookcase trick, or more popular was a bulletproof cummerbund in the tuxedo trick, and he was always given exaggeration of almost everything, and so when he started telling them things like this right here as to what was happening, then he'd say, would you believe it? Here's some examples. You better drop that gun because this yacht happens to be surrounded by the 7th Fleet. Would you believe the 6th Fleet? Well, how about a school of angry flounder? Or how about this? As soon as you're gone, by the use of sheer brute strength, I shall be able to rip these chains from the wall in 1 minute. Would you believe 2 minutes? Would you believe a week from Tuesday? I think it's only fair to warn you that this facility is surrounded by a highly trained team of 130 Black Ops snipers. The guy says, I don't believe you. Would you believe 24 Delta Force commandos? I don't believe you. How about Chuck Norris with a BB gun? You see, sometimes you have to see it before you can believe it. And when it starts getting fantastic, when the story gets so fantastic that you have trouble believing it, you doubt it. You say, it can't be true because I didn't experience it. And that is so great, that is so fantastic that it's just too much for my mind to absorb. And that's Thomas. Thomas comes back from his little sojourn out into the streets. I don't know, maybe he went to get everybody lunch. When he comes back, he stops at the table and he says, the disciples are gathered up there and they're all basking in the glow of just meeting Jesus. And Thomas, he just plops down his white, greasy, stained paper bag on the table and he says, okay, let's see, what do we got here? Peter, you had tuna on rye. Andrew, chicken salad on white. Now, who was it that ordered the liverwurst? Thomas? Don't bother with those things now. You're not going to believe what's just happened. And then they proceed to tell him, we've just seen Jesus. And he says, right. Unless I can see the marks in his hands and the mark in his side, I cannot believe. Put yourself in Thomas's place. It would be hard to believe something as fantastic as that. That somebody that you saw die, that you saw buried, all of a sudden comes back to life. Because you see, resurrection it's hard for us to understand. Because it's just not normal. It's not part of our everyday routine for someone to come back to life after they've been proclaimed dead. So that kind of news is going to be a little bit disturbing. And I'm sure Thomas is grieving over the loss of Jesus, just as anyone would be. So his grief is tied up in all of that. And when they come with fantastic news like that, of course Thomas isn't going to believe the disciples. Would you believe that Jesus is risen? Would you believe that Jesus, who was crucified between two thieves, is alive? Would you believe that he has appeared to Mary and to all of us? To which Thomas would say, no, it's an idle tale. You see, that's what is so hard for us. Unless I see him, I won't believe, Thomas says. Yeah, maybe we're like that too. Maybe we do have to have that evidence and that proof. Maybe we have to have that kind of evidence right out in front of us before we're going to believe. I mean, there's certain circumstances I think that's positive for us to do. Because we really want to believe, but yet we need proof that what they're saying is actually true. So we ask for proof. We live in a culture that says, I want firsthand experience of everything that goes on in this world. I want to be there for everything. Why do you think CNN is so popular? It's because it's all over the world and we can see what's happening on the other side of the world in an instant. Whenever something happens, we can find it on the television. We can hear it on the radio. We can see it on our computer screens. Happens like that. Because, see, we want to know what's going on around us. 40 years ago, you wouldn't have known that. News about World War II took weeks to filter back into all the channels that there were. Today, it's instantaneous. It's done before we know it.